My name is Olivia Carter, 35 years old. This Christmas Eve, I stood in front of the house I grew up in Portland, Maine, while the snow fell so thick it felt like the sky and the ground had blurred into one. In my left arm, I held a freshly baked pumpkin pie. In my right hand, a silver-wrapped gift bag with red ribbon that I had carefully prepared over the past few weeks. After a journey of more than 1,000 miles from Charlotte, North Carolina, all I wanted was to see my mother's face appear behind that door, her smile and her familiar voice saying I made it just in time. But that wasn't what happened. When the door cracked open, my mother, Linda Carter, the woman who raised me on her own after a bitter divorce, stood there in an elegant black velvet dress, a glass of red wine in her hand. Her face lit up with surprise for just a second. Then her expression changed. Cold. Distant. "Sorry, I think you have the wrong house," she said, clear, firm, like I was a stranger who had rung the wrong bell. I froze, thinking I misheard. "Mom? It's me, Olivia." Her eyes flicked past my shoulder, then back into the house as if afraid someone was watching. "I don't know who you are. You've got the wrong place," she repeated, this time softer, but with the same conviction. Then the door slammed shut. I stood there, frozen. The wind stabbed at my back. The pie in my arms was still steaming, but my heart had already turned to stone. No explanation, no tenderness, no sign that I had ever been her daughter. I couldn't move. I pressed my forehead against the icy wood of the door, trying to hear anything inside. All I caught was faint Christmas music, cheerful chatter, and the clink of wine glasses. As if a party was in full swing inside the house I once called home. I didn't understand. I couldn't. Just a week ago, I had spoken with my mother on the phone. Though her voice had seemed distant, there was no hint anything was wrong. I told her clearly that I was coming, that I was excited to see her and Dylan, my younger brother, after 3 years apart. I even transferred $2,200 to contribute to the Christmas dinner, as she had suggested. And now, I was being turned away at the doorstep, as if I had never existed in their lives. The cold wind sliced my face like blades. I took a few steps back, looking up at the glowing windows that once held all my childhood memories. My hands began to tremble, not from the weather, but from pain. I set the pie down on the porch. The heavy gift bag slipped from my hand with a dull thud. I stared at it. The gifts I had so carefully chosen, one by one, with the hope of mending old cracks. The teal wool scarf for Mom. The limited edition gaming console for Dylan. A silver photo frame engraved with the phrase, "Family is where the heart belongs." How ridiculous. I turned and walked back to my car. Every step felt like I was stepping on my own dignity. No one came out to call me. No explanation, no last-minute embrace, just snow falling quietly, erasing every trace that I had ever been there. I didn't know why they did it, but I knew one thing. Tonight, I lost something I once believed was permanent. I was born and raised in Portland, a postcard-worthy coastal town that was never as peaceful as it appeared. When I was 15, the life I thought would be whole shattered overnight. My father, Mark Carter, left with a woman 10 years younger, a dental assistant he met while doing maintenance at a clinic. The whole town gossiped for weeks, and then, like waves against rock, it passed, but for me, it never really passed. My mother, Linda, took the blow in terrifying silence. No crying, no screaming. She folded the divorce papers and started working overnight shifts at the hospital pharmacy. Her body endured, but her spirit never really recovered. I was the oldest. Dylan, my brother, was 4 years younger, only 11 then. He was too young to grasp that our father wouldn't return. I understood too well. I started cooking dinner, checking Dylan's homework, doing laundry, washing dishes, cleaning the house. No one asked me to, but someone had to, and I was the only one who could. Life moved forward in survival mode. My mother hardly spoke. She faded into the walls of our home, quiet, exhausted, depleted. Dylan grew up with a cocky smile and the blissful belief that he was Mom's favorite. I wasn't jealous. I was just sad. When I got accepted to the University of Vermont, my mom didn't attend orientation. She said she had a shift, but I knew she couldn't bear to show up. I took the bus alone, dragged my suitcase alone, built my dorm bed alone. I didn't blame her. I blamed myself for growing too used to living without arms to catch me. After graduating, I returned to Portland for a short while. I worked as a marketing associate for a private medical center, just about a 30-minute drive from home. Every Sunday, I went back. I brought groceries, paid the utility bills, fixed the washing machine, picked up Mom's prescriptions. Sometimes I felt like a lifeline they clung to whenever things got shaky. Yet no one ever looked back to see who was holding the other end. Dylan still lived at home, then in his senior year of high school. He didn't enjoy working, but he had a gift for sweet-talking people with that easy voice and his handsome face. When I suggested he find a part-time job to help out, Mom immediately shot it down. He needs time to focus on school. Don't pressure him. So I stayed silent, and I stayed silent for many years after that. When I moved to Charlotte to become the strategic marketing director for a pharmaceutical company, I hoped that distance would finally let me breathe. But I was wrong. Just 3 months in, Mom called, her voice trembling. "Olivia, the heater broke. It's freezing this winter. Repairs cost nearly $3,000. Can you help?" I didn't even think. I transferred the money right away. 2 months later, Dylan called. "My car's in bad shape. I'm about to lose my job if I can't get to work. Can you help me out?" I said yes again. Another $4,500. And it didn't stop there. I began sending monthly transfers. $700 to Mom, $400 to Dylan, not including the extras whenever they complained about a leaking fridge, uninsured prescription, or tuition shortfall because Dylan's missing credits. I believed that by supporting them financially, I was maintaining a bond with my family. But the more money I sent, the further away I felt. Our phone calls became shorter. Texts gradually turned into payment requests instead of check-ins. Anytime I tried to talk about work, achievements, or the loneliness of building a life in a new city, I was cut off with, "Oh, honey, I'm busy right now." Know when I went wrong, or maybe I was wrong from the start for thinking that if I were kind enough, I'd be loved. This Christmas, I decided to do things differently. I skipped the luxury trip the company gifted us and spent a whole month preparing to go home. I pictured us hugging, eating pumpkin pie, laughing under the Christmas tree. I put my whole heart into every gift, every detail. But when that door slammed in my face, I realized something I probably should have accepted long ago. I didn't really belong there anymore. I never thought a strange city could so quickly become my second home. Charlotte, with its glowing high-rises, magnolia-lined streets, and busy pace, had opened a brand new chapter in my life. My job at Virexa Pharmaceuticals was anything but easy. Strategic marketing director sounded impressive, but I had to earn every bit of it through sleepless nights, flawless presentations, and campaigns that hit the market just right. In return, I got to work with brilliant people in an environment where skill was truly recognized. At the end of each month, when I saw that paycheck showing over $8,000, I felt a wave of relief. Not because I needed the money, but because I needed control. I wanted to be the one who decided how my life went. But strangely, the more money I made, the less control I had over my own wallet. Because the moment my salary landed, I logged into the banking app, sent $700 to Mom, $400 to Dylan, a few hundred more for unexpected expenses. Sometimes the washing machine was about to explode. Sometimes Dylan had his power cut for forgetting to pay. Every excuse made sense. Every plea felt urgent, and every time, I couldn't bring myself to say no. First, I told myself, it's just temporary. But then one month turned into another, 1 year into the next. Nothing changed, except the growing emptiness inside me. On quiet weekends, I called home. Sometimes the phone rang 10 times without anyone picking up. When someone did answer, it was Dylan, lazy as ever. "What's up? I'm gaming." Or, "Mom, hurrying, I'm cooking for the church ladies group, call me later." I always called later, but no one ever called me back. The more distant I was, the more I tried to hold on. I sent pictures of my projects, messages checking on Mom's health, compliments on the cake Dylan posted on Instagram, but it seemed I was the only one trying to hold on to anything. They were only holding on to my bank account. One time, I came home after a business trip to Austin, opened the fridge, and found it full of leftovers. I sat at the kitchen table, exhausted, and started a video call with Mom. I just wanted to see a familiar face. But as soon as the screen lit up, she covered the camera and said quickly, "I'm at a church women's meeting, can't talk now." I blurted out, "Mom, I just got nominated for Employee of the Quarter. It's my first time being considered." "That's great, sweetheart, keep working hard. Gotta go," she said with a forced smile, then hung up. I stared at the black screen, wondering why my chest felt so cold. I had just received the biggest news of my career, but had no one to truly share it with. Sometimes, I asked myself, if one day I stopped sending money, would they still call? That thought chilled me. Not because I feared being abandoned, but because I suspected I already had been long ago. I just hadn't admitted it yet. I tried skipping 1 month of transfers, pretending my account was hacked. The reaction was immediate. Dylan texted nonstop, and Mom called 3 times in one morning. For the first time in months, they reached out first, but not to ask if I was okay. Just to ask, "When will your account be fixed?" I said I was struggling and wanted to start saving to buy a house. My mother let out a long sigh. "Don't you ever think about anyone but yourself?" That sentence left me speechless. I had thought about them too much, so much that I forgot to think about myself. I quietly opened my banking app. In the transaction history, it showed over $60,000 in 4 years. Not a single handwritten thank you note, not one visit, not once had anyone asked, "Are you doing okay?" At that moment, I had no idea things were about to get worse. That this year's Christmas gift wouldn't be a reunion, but a bitter truth I never dared to imagine. This Christmas, I decided I would start over. I knew I was fooling myself again, but I still couldn't resist the thought that if I just tried a little harder, loved a little more, sacrificed a little further, maybe things could go back to how they used to be. So I turned down a luxurious retreat in Montego Bay, Jamaica that the company had organized for upper management. Even though the trip had been booked since September and fully paid for, I canceled. Lisa, my direct supervisor, raised her eyebrows when I told her, "Olivia, you know what? You deserve a break," she said during our one-on-one. "Jamaica, private beach, cocktails delivered to your chair. You're really going to skip all that just to go back to Portland?" I smiled softly, hiding the ache inside. I think Christmas should be about family. I want to go home, even though I wasn't sure that place still counted as home. I started planning in early November. I booked my flights, rearranged my entire year-end work calendar, rebalanced my budget to afford the most meaningful gifts I could find for my family. It took me nearly 3 weeks to choose a rose dust cashmere sweater, Mom's favorite color, along with a 3-session full-body spa package at a luxury resort near her town. I thought she'd love it. I still remembered her once saying, "A day of being pampered from head to toe must be what heaven feels like." I wanted her to feel that, right here on Earth. For Dylan, I bought the limited edition PlayStation 5 he had posted about on social media with the caption, "Wish I could get this for the holidays." I also got him 2 VIP tickets to see Blue Station, the rock band he'd obsessed over for years, front row seats, close to the stage. I didn't just want to give gifts. I wanted to give the feeling of being understood, something I had longed for over the years, but rarely received from them. I also carefully wrapped a few small extras, a silver photo frame engraved with the words "Family is where your heart begins and ends," a box of handcrafted chocolates, and a pair of wool socks I knitted myself in the evenings after work. Because I missed the feeling of knitting with Grandma when I was little. But the most important thing of all, the apple pie. Not store-bought. I wanted to make it from scratch, using Grandma Edith Carter's exact recipe, the woman who taught me that love is when you take the time to make something with your whole heart. I spent 3 weekends trying to get it right. The first time, it burned. The second time, the crust was too thick. The third, the filling wasn't soft enough. But on the fourth try, I followed every step perfectly. One bite and tears filled my eyes. That taste. It was memory. It was childhood. It was a warm kitchen in the middle of a freezing winter. It was family. I packed the pie in a heat-resistant glass dish, wrapped it in cloth, and placed it carefully in an insulated bag. On December 23rd, I loaded the car with gifts. From Charlotte to Portland was over 1,000 miles, nearly 13 hours of non-stop driving. But I wanted to go myself. No flights, no shipping. I wanted to feel every mile, like a journey back to myself. Along the way, I listened to Christmas music, imagining Mom's surprised face when she opened the door and pulled me into a hug. Dylan laughing, shouting, "You're home!" The three of us gathered around the dinner table, the Christmas tree twinkling nearby. I'd slice the apple pie, Mom would praise the smell, and Dylan would call dibs on the second helping. I pictured that scene hundreds of times in my head, driving through snowy stretches of Virginia, Pennsylvania, then into New England. And I believed, with every last shred of innocence left in me, that this year would be different. What I didn't know was that I was racing toward a fateful night, where every illusion I'd built my entire life would shatter, piece by piece, beneath the brightest Christmas lights. Arrived at 6 p.m., just as Mom had mentioned in a call a few days earlier. If you make it by dinner, even better. I made it, even 15 minutes early. On Maple Street, the road I used to bike home on after piano lessons. Snow blanketed both sidewalks in white. The 3-bedroom cream-colored house where I grew up was now decked out in twinkling yellow lights along the fence, a wreath on the front door and a towering Christmas tree visible through the living room window. But what made me stop wasn't the decoration. It was the sheer number of cars filling the driveway. A shiny red SUV, a brand new Lexus sedan, even a convertible Porsche, cars I'd never seen in Mom or Dylan's lives. I figured they must belong to new friends, maybe coworkers or someone from church. I adjusted my hair in the rearview mirror, dabbed on some lipstick, and took a deep breath. The apple pie was cradled carefully in my arms, the heavy gift bag slung over my shoulder. I rang the doorbell. That familiar chime echoed, followed by footsteps. Christmas music played softly inside. I imagined Mom opening the door, her eyes widening in surprise, then a warm smile breaking across her face. But when the door opened, it wasn't like anything I had imagined. There she stood, radiant in an expensive red velvet dress, her hair curled, makeup perfectly done, a glass of wine in her hand. The light from the living room caught her pearl necklace, making it sparkle like ice under stage lights. Our eyes met. For a second, I saw shock. Then, like a curtain falling, coldness washed over her face. She took half a step back, subtly angling herself to block the view inside. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice loud enough for someone else inside to hear. "I think you've got the wrong house." I froze. "Mom, it's me. Olivia. Her face didn't change. She glanced quickly at the people chatting behind her. I'm afraid you're mistaken. I don't have a daughter by that name. My chest tightened. What are you talking about? I drove nearly 1,000 miles to get here. How can you? My voice trembled, not from the cold, but from shock. Behind her, I saw Dylan step out. His eyes brushed past me and then quickly looked away, as if I were just a delivery driver at the wrong address. He wore a white button-down shirt and a gray tie, his hair neatly styled. I'd never seen him this dressed up, not even at graduation. What's going on? Dylan asked, his tone slightly awkward. It's nothing, Mom answered quickly, still not looking at me. Just someone at the wrong house, probably a neighbor. I clutched the pie tighter. The warmth from the dish seeped through my gloves, as if to remind me that everything I brought was real. Except the love I thought I'd receive. I just wanted to drop off some gifts, I said softly. A little something for Christmas. And the apple pie, like Grandma used to make. Her eyes flickered, but then she squared her shoulders, her voice smooth again. I think you should leave. This isn't the right time. I took half a step back. Mom, why? I called. I told you I was coming. I even sent money to help pay for this dinner. My voice cracked. Dylan moved slightly closer, but still wouldn't meet my eyes. Olivia, you should have called first. People weren't expecting you. People? Strangers inside a house I helped keep standing? And I, the daughter who paid for roof repairs, college tuition, and even hospital bills last year, was the one not welcome? I stepped forward, my voice strained. Then at least take the gifts. You love cashmere, don't you? And Dylan? You said you liked Blue Station. No need, Mom cut in, clear and firm this time. We don't need anything from you anymore. She gently pushed the door shut. Dylan didn't stop her. No one did. The door closed right in front of me, leaving me standing there like a ghost in the winter night. I heard the countdown from inside. 3, 2, 1, Merry Christmas! Followed by applause, the pop of a wine cork, and cheerful laughter. No one knew, or cared, that just outside I, who had hoped with everything I had, was falling apart. I sat frozen in my car for nearly 10 minutes, my hands gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing holding me together. The Christmas tree out front still twinkled, just like when I was a child watching from my second-floor window. But now those lights only made me feel brutally shut out. I was about to cry. But then my phone buzzed. The name on the screen. Dylan. I swallowed hard and answered without saying a word. I didn't trust myself to speak without breaking. Are you still out there? Dylan's voice was small and unsure. I nodded even though I knew he couldn't see me, then whispered, In the car, I don't understand what's happening. Listen, Dylan sighed. Mom thought you canceled your trip. She told everyone you weren't coming. What happened tonight? It was a misunderstanding. I clenched my teeth. A misunderstanding? You didn't recognize me? You don't know who's been sending money to both of you every month? Silence on the other end. Mom's entertaining guests, Dylan finally said, evasively. They're important people. They don't know about you. I froze. About me? You say that like I'm something to be ashamed of. That's not what I meant. It's just... Mom's opening a spa with Richard, the investor guy. The people here are upper class. Maybe she didn't want things to get awkward. I didn't reply. Every word felt like a punch to the chest. Are you free tomorrow? Dylan rushed on. We could grab coffee, just the two of us. I'll explain. I wasn't sure what stunned me more, his offer or the casual tone, as if tonight had been nothing more than a scratch. No need, I said, my voice disturbingly calm. I understand now. And I hung up. But I didn't fully disconnect. I forgot to end the call. And so did Dylan. The line was still active, the call still going. A few seconds later, Dylan's voice came through, no longer guarded. It's fine. She's gone. A woman's voice, my mother's, followed immediately. Are you sure? She looked like she was about to bang the door down. Dylan scoffed. Relax. I said coffee. That'll calm her down. She's always easy to string along. I frowned. My mother's tone turned breezy, almost mocking. Every time we need money, just whine a little and she wires it over, like an emotional ATM. Then she burst into laughter. I could hear glasses clinking together clearly. This spa? All thanks to her. My pension barely covers anything. All this luxury every month is funded by our dutiful daughter. And her beloved little brother, too, Dylan chimed in, mimicking my voice. I can't let you lose your job just because your car broke down. Then he added smugly, now I've got that Audi. Everything inside me froze. My mother's voice turned sharper, tinged with cruelty. She doesn't even realize people don't avoid her because she's lonely or successful. It's because everyone knows she's desperate enough to throw money around just to get noticed. And still fails, Dylan added, quieter but laughing. I gripped the phone, my hand shaking. My heart, which had once broken in silence, was now shattering from their cruel laughter. Did you see her post last night? Mom asks. That picture of a candle and the caption, hoping to come home this year. Total Hallmark movie energy. They laughed. I wanted to scream, to throw the phone. But I didn't move. I listened to it all. From now on, Mom declared, we have to be firm. Cut the emotions. Only keep her around if we need money. Got it, Dylan said. She still thinks love is enough, but that's not how the world works. A glass clinked, and then the beep call ended. I pulled out my earbuds and stared through the snow-covered windshield. My breath fogged up the glass, but in my mind, everything had never been clearer. My love, the thing I had fed with money, time, memories, and sacrifice, was just a means to an end. I wasn't angry anymore. I just felt empty. And in that moment, I knew this wasn't just a terrible Christmas. It was the end of an illusion. I don't remember how I drove to the Riverside Inn motel. My mind felt like it had just passed through a snowstorm, whitewashed, numb, and hollow. Room 203 was a cold beige block that smelled like disinfectant mixed with old carpet. I sat on the edge of the bed, still in my coat, gloves on, phone clenched in my hand like if I let go, I'd disappear, along with everything I'd just heard. Then I unlocked the phone, not to call anyone, but to start gathering the truth. I opened my bank account and scrolled through the transaction history. I had sent money to Mom and Dylan for the past 4 years, every single month, without fail. Their names appeared as regularly as utility bills. $700 to Linda Carter, $400 to Dylan Carter. Then came the emergency payments. $2,100 for roof repair, $3,400 for a broken-down car, $1,800 for uninsured hospital bills. Each time, a believable excuse. Each time I nodded and wired the money. Because love doesn't require receipts. I never kept track, but now I had to. I opened a spreadsheet. First column, date. Next, amount. Then stated reason according to them. Finally, I added a new column, truth discovered later. Example, March last year. Mom said she needed money for the electric bill. I sent $500. That same month, she posted a photo at a luxury retreat in Asheville with the caption, Recharging with Richard. In October, Dylan begged for help getting back a car that had been repossessed. I wired $4,000. A week later, he posted on Instagram, finally upgraded to an Audi. The more I scrolled, the more bitterness crept into my fingers. After 2 hours of review, the total stared back at me. $83,276. I stared at that number, just shy of a down payment on a condo in Charlotte. A third of it could have paid for a graduate degree. Used for travel, I could have touched at least 10 countries. Instead, I used it to earn the title of Emotional ATM. I opened another tab and logged into my banking app. First, I canceled all recurring transfers. No more $700 to mom, no more $400 to Dylan, no more automatic drafts on the first of the month. Next, I checked the credit card I'd given mom, just for emergencies. The charges showed designer clothing stores, movie theaters, and most recently, Coastal Country Club, where the starter membership fee is $15,000 per year. I clicked Report Card as stolen. The system asked, "Do you want to freeze the card and issue a replacement?" I clicked yes. Next, I moved on to Dylan's card, meant for books and school supplies. Transactions showed Amazon, GameStop, PlayStation Store, and a plane ticket to Denver, even though he'd once cried saying he couldn't afford gas to get to class. That card was deactivated in under 5 minutes. Finally, I transferred every cent from the secondary account, meant to help cover mom's mortgage, back into my primary account. That account bore my name, only mine, and now no one else could touch it. I exhaled. For the first time in years, a breath not yanked backward by fear. The clock read 2:30 a.m. I opened my laptop and titled a new document, Financial Support History, the Carter Family. I didn't write with emotion, I wrote with clarity. I entered every amount, every date, every detail of their words and actions I had overlooked. This wasn't just for defense if they came back asking for more. This was my record of everything I had lost, and my declaration that I was finally standing up for my right to be loved with decency. I saved the file, closed the laptop, not because I was done acting, but because I had just begun something new. A life without them, and without the lies. I woke at 6 a.m. in the frigid motel room at Riverside Inn, my eyes heavy but my mind shockingly clear. The sky outside was gray, snow still falling softly, as if trying to bury the Christmas night that had just passed. My phone buzzed non-stop. 12 missed calls from Dylan. 9 from Mom. 2 voice messages, and a cascade of texts covering the lock screen. I didn't open any of them. I just sat there, sipping the bitter coffee from the vending machine down the hall, listening to the wind whistle through the window frame. I had ended it. I owed them no explanation. But they weren't about to let go that easily. The first message came in at 6:15 a.m. Dylan, what are you doing? The card's locked. Are you joking right now? I can't even get gas. 10 minutes later. Mom. Olivia, I'm really disappointed. Yesterday was Christmas. What were you trying to pull? What's this nonsense about canceling transfers? Then came the familiar tone of guilt-tripping, slowly morphing into threats. Mom, if you don't reinstate the account today, I'll be talking to a lawyer. You don't have the right to cut everything off like this. This is financial abuse. I laughed. A short, bitter laugh. Abuse? From someone who used the card I gave her to buy a $2,000 set of crystal glassware? From someone who once emailed me begging for prescription money, then posted spa day selfies with friends? I set the phone down on the table and opened my laptop. The email was still open on the old tab where I'd left my detailed financial report. I thought about sending it to a lawyer, but didn't. Not yet anyway. I had turned off the faucet, and now they were thirsty. Dylan's third message. Don't think I don't know how to take care of myself, but choosing Christmas to pull this? That's cold. Less than a minute later came the fourth. I'm sorry if last night hurt you. But you're not perfect either, okay? You left, chased your career, and came back blaming us. You think I don't have feelings? Oh, I knew Dylan had feelings, just never for me, only for the things he needed from me. Around 10 a.m., Mom called again, this time leaving a nearly 4-minute voicemail. I hadn't planned to listen, but I did. Like some form of closure. Olivia, I don't understand what's happening. Is someone influencing you? Has someone gotten into your head? You've never been this cold before. I gave my whole life to raising you. Who do you think supported this family for years? She inhaled sharply, then continued in that familiar, fake, choked-up voice. If you think cutting us off financially is going to teach us something, you're wrong. Families don't keep score. But if this is how it's going to be, don't call again. Don't call yourself my daughter anymore. I closed the phone. It felt like something finally snapped inside me, not painfully, but with relief. The text storm continued through the afternoon, shifting from threats to pleading, from rage to blame, then circling back to entitlement like nothing had ever happened. Dylan. Come on, sis, stop this. I need you. I know you need family too. Can we talk like adults? Mom, we've gone too far. I'm willing to forgive as long as you behave appropriately. Not a single sincere apology. Not one line acknowledging what they said last night, what I heard with my own ears. I put my phone on Do Not Disturb and went down to the front desk to check out. Before leaving Riverside Inn, I sent them a short, emotionless email. I confirmed the cancellation of all financial support, credit cards, and accounts connected to personal assets. All future communication must be via email. I will no longer provide any form of assistance. Olivia. No greeting, no well wishes, nothing left to hold on to. As I pulled out of the parking lot, I glanced in the rearview mirror. The sky was dull gray, no more snow. The road ahead was quiet. And that's exactly what I needed. Silence after the storm. 3 days after leaving Portland, I was back in Charlotte. The city was still bustling, noisy, traffic flowing along oak-lined boulevards like nothing had happened. But inside me, something old had crumbled entirely, and I was no longer the Olivia I had been. That afternoon, when Lisa, my manager, walked into the office and saw me buried in reports, she paused for a moment, then said gently, "Something happened over the break, didn't it?" I didn't respond, but my eyes must have said enough. She set a small handwritten note on my desk. "It's the number of a therapist I once recommended to a former colleague. She's really good, if you want." I took that note home like it was something delicate and precious. 3 days later, I had my first appointment with Dr. Marla Becker, a therapist with over 20 years of experience in recovery from family abuse. She looked to be in her 50s, silver-streaked hair pulled back neatly, eyes sharp yet deeply kind. I sat down on the blue velvet chair, my hands clenched tightly at the hem of my sweater. I didn't know where to begin. "I think I was just rejected by my own family," I said, my voice hoarse. "Not because I did anything wrong, but because I stopped sending money." Dr. Becker nodded, jotting a few notes. "My mom and my brother said I was an emotional burden, that I was only useful for paying the bills." I swallowed hard. I believed I was selfish for not giving them more during the holidays. But something about that just feels wrong, doesn't it? She set her pen down and looked at me directly. "Olivia, what you're describing isn't just a simple family disagreement," she said calmly. "It's a form of systematic financial abuse, disguised as familial duty. And with it comes emotional abuse, when you're manipulated, blamed, and isolated simply for setting boundaries." For the first time, someone named what I had been enduring. And with just one sentence, I felt a small weight lift from my chest. We met weekly. Each session untangled another knot. I learned how to recognize emotions instead of burying them, how to understand that my worth wasn't dependent on someone else's approval, especially not family. I started journaling again, a habit I had abandoned since high school. The blank pages became a place to release, to have conversations with myself, the woman who had forgotten that she too deserved love without a price tag. Gradually, I began opening up to the world around me. One Saturday afternoon, I brought the last apple pie I had baked, the one I'd meant to bring to Portland, and knocked on the door of Evelyn, the widowed elderly lady who lived below me. She was in her 70s, petite, once a literature teacher. We'd said hello in the hallway before, but never truly spoken. I handed her the pie and said, "I made too much. Didn't want to eat alone." Evelyn smiled kindly. "Well then, come in. I'll make some tea." The conversation lasted nearly 2 hours. She told me stories from her teaching days, about her husband who died of cancer, her kids now scattered across the country. Then she looked at me, her eyes deep and sincere. "Have you ever loved someone who only needed you when they needed money?" I froze. That question sliced right through my defenses. I nodded. "Then maybe it's time to love yourself. Through kindness, through distance, and through boundaries." After that day, I started attending community events in my building, morning yoga classes, Friday night outdoor movies, and Sunday volunteer cooking groups. I met Jason, a coworker from the creative department, when we both signed up to teach soft skills at a local high school. Jason didn't know anything about my family situation, and I liked that. With him, I was the current Olivia, competent, funny, a little blunt, but deeply sincere. I also became friends with Clara, the city librarian, a single woman in her 40s who loved books and always carried peppermint candies. We met every Wednesday to read together and talk about things no one ever taught us growing up, like how to choose friends, how to say no, and how to walk away from a family that's no longer safe. My life didn't feel empty anymore. It was being rebuilt. By my own choices, with people I genuinely wanted to keep close, not because they needed me, but because they valued me. One early April afternoon, the weather in Charlotte was unusually crisp and pleasant. I had just finished work and stopped by a small bookstore in South End to pick up a new novel. The door swung open, and a wind chime rang softly as I stepped inside. Before I could even look around, a familiar voice came from the left. "Olivia?" I turned. "Dylan." He stood there, holding a cup of coffee from the shop next door, wearing a worn-out hoodie and faded jeans. His eyes widened for a moment, then shifted. Was it regret? Guilt? I couldn't tell, but I felt strangely calm. "Long time no see," I said gently. "You actually live in Charlotte?" Dylan asked, glancing me over. My neatly cut hair, the cream-colored blazer, the eyes that no longer crumbled like the last time we stood face to face. "I've always lived here, Dylan," I replied. "You just never really showed up." He gave an awkward smile and looked down. "You look different." "Better?" Definitely better." There were barely 6 feet between us, but inside me, it felt like an ocean had separated our shores. "I'm just here visiting a friend," Dylan said quickly, like he needed to justify his presence. "Just happened to walk by, didn't expect to see you." I nodded without saying anything more. The silence between us was no longer heavy, it was simply the truth. An empty space that didn't need to be filled. Dylan shrugged. "You're really mad at me, aren't you?" I furrowed my brow, didn't respond right away. Then I looked directly at him. The little brother I had protected since 4th grade. The one I once believed I could pull out of his selfish spiral if only I tried hard enough. "No," I said. "I'm not mad." Dylan frowned. "Really?" "Yeah, I just don't expect anything anymore." He swallowed hard. I continued. "I used to think family was a place you could always return to, a place that loves you unconditionally, even when you have nothing to give." I paused for a beat. "But sometimes people use the very idea of family to bind, exploit, and manipulate." It took me a long time to understand. Real family is made of love and respect, not blood ties. Dylan looked down. The wind swept through his hair, carrying a few cherry blossom petals onto the sidewalk. He looked up at me, and for the first time in his life, he didn't have that sly confidence, but genuine confusion. "I know I was wrong," he said quietly. "At the time, I didn't think about it. It just felt normal. I got used to your help, so I didn't see it as wrong. And you also got used to not caring how I was feeling." He went silent. I nodded slightly and smiled, not bitterly, not sadly, but with release. "I don't blame you anymore, but I'm no longer part of the system you and Mom created. I've chosen a different life." Dylan winced, awkward. "Mom?" "She still asks about you. She says, maybe you should have been clearer, that you should have talked it out more." I smiled. "I was clear. You just didn't want to listen." He looked down, gripping his coffee cup like it was the last thing he could hold on to. "I want to make things right, but if you don't want that, I get it." For the first time, Dylan wasn't demanding, justifying, or blaming. And that, in spite of how late it came, made me feel a little lighter. "I hope you live by those words," I said, "not to get me back, but to never do that to someone else again." I took a step back, the golden afternoon light washing over the street. "Goodbye, Dylan. I wish you peace." He nodded, his lips moved, but no sound came out. I turned and walked away, not because I was running this time, but because I had truly stepped out of the shadow. Summer in Charlotte arrived gently, the sunlight warm but not harsh, just enough to make you want to fling open the windows, turn on music, and let your heart feel light. I was sitting in my small kitchen, morning light filtering through cream-colored curtains, brushing across the cactus I had recently been gifted. Next to me was Clara, the best friend I never imagined I'd find after turning 30. She was carefully pouring mint tea while I flipped through my latest manuscript, a debut nonfiction book on financial abuse within families, based on my own story. "You're publishing this, right?" Clara asked. I nodded. "Of course. Someone out there needs to know they're not crazy, not ungrateful, not cruel, just because they chose to stop and protect themselves." Outside, Jason and a few neighbors were setting up for the community picnic in the courtyard. The scent of toasted bread drifted in the breeze, and children's laughter rang out as they chased soap bubbles. I looked at it all, and something was clear. I was home. Not because I shared blood with anyone here, but because I was seen, heard, and loved, without having to pay for it or endure it. Family, as I once knew it, was something I clung to with everything I had. But family, as I understood it now, was made up of those who choose to stay, even when they want nothing from you except you. Every Friday night, Clara and I hosted Truth Night at the library. Anyone could come, sit in a circle, and share their story. No judgment, no advice, no fixing, just listening. A single mom came for the first time and cried almost the entire session, sharing how her ex-husband won custody just because she was too poor to be a good mother. A 22-year-old law student told us how he cut ties with his birth parents after they used his scholarship money to pay off gambling debts. A 70-year-old man told us how his younger brother stole his inheritance after his wife passed away. And I shared my own story without shame, without fear of being misunderstood. I used to believe I was only worthy of love if I was useful, that if I didn't give money, time, emotion, I was a failure. But then I learned something. You don't have to break yourself apart so others can exist. At the end of every session, I often say one thing that has now become my life's message. Sometimes, walking away is the most loving thing you can do for yourself. And I want you, the one listening, the one watching this video, to know that you are not alone. If you've ever felt used, but still blamed yourself for not being good enough, if you've ever feared cutting ties with family because you were afraid of being called ungrateful, if you've ever felt your love was not returned in equal measure, then you are not wrong, and you deserve something kinder. You can build a new family out of friends, neighbors, coworkers, or even strangers, simply because they see you and accept you as you are. No one has the right to drain you just because of blood ties. No one has the right to hurt you simply because they've always done it. The day I walked out of that old house in Portland, I thought I had lost everything. But it turned out that was the day I finally started to find myself again. The end. Olivia's story is a powerful reminder that not everyone who wears the label family truly loves us. Sometimes walking away isn't selfish, it's a brave act of self-preservation. Real love doesn't come from endless sacrifice, but from respect and honesty. In real life, each of us has the right to choose our family, not by blood, but by kindness. Because loving yourself is never something to be ashamed of. What do you think of Olivia's choice? What would you do in her shoes? Share your thoughts below. And don't forget to follow the channel to hear more emotional and powerful stories about life and family.